What's going on, everybody? It's Joe from the Acceptable Casualties, and we're here to take a look at Battlegroup Spring Awakening. If you guys are like me, you guys have been waiting for a little more Battlegroup on the Eastern Front, and this batch comes late war 1945 in Hungary. As they push into the book that would be Fall of the Reich for Battlegroup. This is a supplement for Fall of the Reich, so you're going to need the Fall of the Reich book to play with this as far as using the Soviet lists. But this book on its own has lists for, I believe it's the German Panzer Division and Hungarian forces in 1945. But we're going to get all into that in a second. So let's just kind of open this up and take a look. So as you guys can see, this is going to be a softcover book. I believe it runs 80 pages on the nose. Typical standard, what you guys expect to see. Tons of good pictures, artwork, photos of models as far as the presentation goes. Like I said, they always do a really good job with these books. So here we go right here. It's mostly photos, model collections coming through for the Eastern Front late war stuff. You're going to get pictures of Panthers, all sorts of Panzers in here, Hungarian armor and everything else. So yeah, let's take a look here. Yeah, it's roughly 80 pages for the book. A whole list of stuff in here. The beginning explains the Spring Awakening and the and pushing into Hungary and how that goes. Like I said, all information here for the Battle of Hungary. The first, I believe it's 35 pages, go into all different types of battles in history in here. Siege of Budapest, all the different operations like Operation Conrad, and I think it was 1, 2, and 3 that are covered in here. Just tons of information as usual. Great photos that they end up pulling up out of the archives. They got some maps in here that kind of explain the operations a little bit better as well, going all the way through. And like I said, we're on page 16 now, so another 20 pages of this roughly going through here. Like I said, and as always, if you guys have watched my other reviews for the Battlegroup books, what's nice about the amount of history that they put into these is if you go through the back and you end up already playing through the scenarios that they have in the book, or maybe you need a little inspiration for maybe coming up with some of your own homebrew scenarios or some of the things that maybe you want to put on the tabletop and you need some ideas for. These are great resources to go into. They give a lot of good information and details as far as the conflicts, what units were there. It's just a great way to pull out and maybe do some own custom stuff on your own. It just takes a little bit of work to kind of pull out of the information out of here and really just put it on the tabletop and have some fun with it. So yeah, they did a fantastic job here. Tons and tons of information, great photos as well going through here. It got me a little excited to go back and start playing some late war Soviets. Like I said, we've been mostly doing early war around here lately, but I think at the turn of the new year, we're going to try to get a couple late war games in, especially out of this book, and kind of give it a try. So hopefully you guys can get some battle reports in the next couple weeks. So here we go, coming through here, just more information. Like I said, we're 29 pages in, tons and tons of stuff in here for Soviets, Hungarians, and German history all the way through here. Operation Icebreaker right here. Some more maps here for Spring Awakening, the German attacks at the beginning of March. Going through again, more photos, just like I said, more information, tons of information. And finally, page 36, as we make our way through, this is when we actually start getting to game content in here right now. So right here on page 36, we got some special rules for the Spring Awakening. There's all sorts of stuff in here for combined operations, cloud cover rules going in, mudbound for bogging down vehicles. Excuse me. All sorts of different little like fluff rules that are specifically geared toward this campaign and using this book in Hungary after the melt of the winter and going into the spring. Right here, if you guys have played the Market Garden book, if you guys have seen that, you guys will notice this right here. So you need the Fall of the Reich book to get access to the Soviet list. Is how it works. This right here is just it shows you the alterations. So you just use the Fall of the Reich list for the Soviets. In here, it shows you any of the additional rules or things that have gotten swapped out when you use those lists. So for example, would be you can pay extra points as a Soviet to give Germans low fuel. So there's special rules for that you would follow. Different rules for like IS-2 platoons for this book. They're a restricted unit. For ISU batteries, you remove restricted, and they're actually a unique unit now. For your defenses, you're allowed to get electrified barbed wire in here, which is pretty cool. You get different anti-aircraft gun batteries in here, and it shows you right here is 85 millimeters that you can get with there. and you can get dugouts with it. So it's just minor changes going through the core list that you're going to see out of Fall of the Reich for the Soviets, and that kind of just gets altered with some of these changes in here. There's not a lot of them. It's just like minimal stuff. Seems like it's maybe one or two things for each section in the book for the Soviets. The actual army list right here, as with all the Battlegroup books, it kind of explains what the units are: forward HQ, infantry, tanks, artillery. Gives you a basic rundown of what those constitute inside the list building process, as well as unit availability, what restricted units are, unique units, size of games, and what amount of infantry you need to take for min and max, and things like that. A lot of the standard information that you're going to find throughout a lot of the Battlegroup books is just right here. Going into the list right now, we're going to look at the German Panzer Division battle group. This is Hungary 1945. So this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the book, what everybody wants to see right here. These lists, I really like the German Panzer Division list in this book. There's some new stuff in there. It's kind of cool and kind of got me excited as far as maybe adding some more units to playing Germans as well. So as going through here, these pages, you're kind of getting a lot of the same core stuff you might have noticed from some of the other books. Basic forward HQ, taking your Panzers, Panthers, your King Tigers, options over here for loading out your forward HQ. You still got your wire teams and all your specialists with like dispatch riders, air control officers, things like that. Infantry units over here, you have access to a regular Panzer Grenadier platoon, comes with pretty much the basic loadout that you're going to see in a lot of the late war German infantry stuff. Nothing really special coming out of here. Armored Panzer Grenadiers, so if you want to end up throwing these guys in half tracks, you have options for using half tracks as well. And these are all regular troops with the full list of support options in here as well. This is the one I was most excited about, was the Armored Recce Infantry Platoon. So it's like 181 points, regular troops. But this is a pretty cool list because it's not something that I've seen in a lot of the books that I own for Germans. And it's just like I said, it's a nice mix, a way to kind of switch your list up when you're playing and get some different units on the table and mix and match with some stuff. So with this unit right here, you get a two-man like officer group, command squad group. They end up coming in a half track. You can give them upgraded to artillery spotters, but then you get your different parts of the unit. You get stretcher bearers in here as well, and then you get 4 machine gun teams, and that's kind of your loadout for each platoon. And you get to take 4 MG teams with 4 men in each one. You can upgrade them to veterans as well. But the cool part about this list that I like, I mean, you still get the mortar teams, Panzer Schrecks, heavy machine guns. You still got a lot of the basic stuff that you can add to the platoon. But in this one, you can also add the light armored cars. So if you want to take a 222 in there with a scout ability, that's built into your platoon right here, as well as taking the, you want to get some Pumas maybe in there, or a 250/8 SDKFZ. You can get those in here as well. So for your support units, you can almost load up on Recce and armored cars and build a really quick, fast-hitting force that's kind of built into your platoon, so you don't have to necessarily burn your support choices in reconnaissance on these light armor cars already built into the list, so you can either add more of them or maybe play with some different Recce units if you want to build a Recce list and use that. So this seems like it's a really cool infantry selection that you can use and maybe get some different options as opposed to the usual standard Panzer Grenadier and Grenadier stuff that you would use when you're normally playing German. So definitely a cool switch to what you're used to seeing over here. For tank units, the big thing that jumped out at me for going through here the first time, the Tiger 2 platoon for like 300 points. You get 3 King Tigers in here. You can only take 1 platoon of them, but if you got 3 King Tigers on the table, most likely that's all you're going to need over here. So that's one of the cool things that you can get in here if you're a tank head and you like playing Germans over there. They got options for Hetzers in here, your Stugs, you got your Panzer Force, you got your Panthers in here. So there's a lot of good core armor units in here for those of you who like playing with German armor. Like I said, on the Eastern Front too, it's always nice late war to be able to throw the big cats against that those commie tanks that are coming across the border. It seems like you can get some really good tank battles set up with what you got over here. Artillery, a lot of the standard stuff you hear. The cool thing is, though, you have in this book, you have access to Wesps, Hummels, and Grills. So you got that self-propelled artillery. I want to get that on the table. You got options for all 3 of them, light, medium, and heavy gun batteries, the mobile type, as well as your standard howitzers and Nebelwerfers that you can get access to, and mortars, and a lot of the standard gear that you would get out of the artillery unit. So there's a lot of flexibility in here too, is whether you want to build mobile forces or you want to kind of dig in and set more of a defensive line and play more of the infantry game. Over here for defenses for the Germans, not a huge defense selection here. It almost kind of pushes you maybe toward building a combined arms with your armor and infantry, since you don't have a ton of options here for defenses for your Germans to pick out of here. But you got a lot of the standard stuff like barricades, MG dugouts, mortar pits. You can fortify buildings. A lot of the stuff that you would normally expect from a basic defense list coming out of there. For your recce, as we talked before, if you want to build that infantry list or reconnaissance list, you're going to get some built-in recce here. But if you want to build on top of that for regular lists, a lot of the standard stuff that you would see in here as well. You know, you got snipers, you got your motorized recce, you got your armored recce if you want to put some guys inside a half track with some MGs, and you know, you got scout and mortar spotters with them. You got the full list of armored cars that you can pick from late war in here, which kind of give you that. There's a unit down here. I'm not familiar with it, but some of you guys might have it in your collection. It's the SD KFZ 140/1. I don't know. It looks like it's a tank. It almost looks like it has. Is it a 20 millimeter on top on there? So you get an armored vehicle. Essentially, you get a tank with a 20 millimeter on top that gives you scout and mortar spotter as well, and that's like 36 points. So this is pretty cool right here. Take a look in there. Other German battle groups, they say, that are also usable in Hungary in 1945 that aren't included in the book. There's a note of it down here. If you want to use the infantry division in 1944 from Battlegroup Overlord, you can use that, as well as Volksgrenadier divisions in 1944 from the Battle of the Bulge book. So you have some more stuff that you can incorporate into this that they just didn't have in the book, but those lists from the other books that you can use and combine and bring them out. For your engineer support units, you got your light bridging, heavy bridging units. You got some flamethrower units here as well that you can put together. So you got your flame track, and you can do a Flampanzer if you want to, and upgrade for the points over there. A whole different selection here for recovery vehicles, whether you want to use the FAMO or the Birch Panthers, Birch Hetzer, Birch Panzer. Like, they give you a pretty decent selection here. So if you have any of those in your collection, you want to bust them out, there's a wide variety of stuff that you can throw on your list right there. Salt Pioneers, always fun to use. I love taking out Pioneer squads or sappers or anything like that. So you got that coming out of your engineer support, and they got the full kit and caboodle over here as well as far as upgrades go. And all the stuff that you want to take for that. So that's kind of loaded up as well. For your supplies, you got your supply trucks as normal, ambulance, forward air post, stretcher party, kind of just the basic stuff there. Nothing that's going to knock your socks off. For special support units, a lot of fun stuff in here when I was looking through here. So you can take the PaK 43 if you want to take that, which is kind of cool being able to bust that out. You got options for Brumbars, captured T-34s that you can bring in here as well. So you can get a little, variety inside your German units here, bringing out some Soviet armor and playing it against them. Lots of tank hunter units in here, whether it's the Martyr selections, you can get the PaK 40 RSOs in here, Jagd Panzers, and then you can also get the Jagd Panther, which I'm a big fan of, and then there's a Nashorn in here as well. So lots of options for your self-propelled tanks. Like I said, you got access to Flak 88s, and then your AA vehicles. You got everything you want here. You got the 20 mil, you got that quad 20 mil, the Vierling 37s. You got the 251 21 drilling. There's Flak Panzers, Mobile Wagon, Wirbelwind, Ostwind. So I mean, like this book, as far as lists go, if you like having German armor and all the variants, you're going to have a lot of fun stuff to play with out of here. Lots of cool lists for German players here for late war, as far as taking your toys out and being able to put them on the table. For your fire support, just everything you'd want in here, whether you're going to be looking at artillery barrages, mortar barrages, a nice variation too as far as point cost, so you can kind of fit this stuff in your list, whether you want to go big time and spend a lot of points, or you want to kind of scale it down a little bit. You got a lot of flexibility in this one. I think that's what's kind of cool about Eastern Front late war. Even though Germans were on their back foot, and the war was pretty much over by most people's standards at that point, you still can, when you're wargaming, you still have access to a lot of cool stuff as, before they end up hitting Berlin and getting into Germany. So you still got a lot of fun toys to play with and out here. And like I said, these lists have a lot of that in there, and it's available. Next up is the Hungarian Army. Be honest here, I'm not very familiar with the Hungarian Army, but by the look, my first pass at this list, it seems like you got a decent amount of toys to play with for one of the minor powers going in here. So forward HQ, you're going to have some options here. You get like cards. You're going to get forward signals units, comms relay, motorcycles, field police. I wasn't familiar with the field police, but I'm assuming that's kind of like NKVD for the Russians. I could be wrong on that. I didn't get a chance to actually read up on the fight damn you rule, but that's kind of the vibe that I got from it. And then over here you got dogged defense as well, so you can up your battle rating by D6 for 15 points. You know, kind of you're fighting for your country. The Hungarians are defending their homeland, so you know they're going to be a little bit tougher to kind of get out of the way. They also have the rounds on the way rule, which well, it's it can make things fairly comical. I ended up using it with paratroopers, one of my British paras, and stuff. Kind of it got a little funky on the table there when you can't call them off. Your mortar rounds. For the infantry, you only got one selection here for your infantry platoon. It's they're inexperienced. They're 70 points. They're on the cheap end, so you're probably going to end up putting a lot of boots on the table if you're doing a pure Hungarian list, just for what you're filling out for points. They look like they got 5, 6. So yeah, it looks like you're looking at 6-man rifle sections and 5-man light machine gun sections as your core, with a 5-man platoon command squad, sorry. And you got your basic loadouts for your support units, you know, medic, light mortars, you got machine gun teams, anti-tank rifles, which late war, I don't really remember seeing AT rifle teams being that common in late war. So it's kind of cool to be able to maybe throw those guys out on the table and maybe punch some side armor on some of the Soviet tanks coming through. You got medium mortar teams, and then you got your anti-tank guns. You can get Bofors in there. They got Pak 38s, and then you can use the standard Hungarian gear as well. So you got some mixes in there. And like I said, remember these lists you can also run, I believe, as combined arms, where you can do German and Hungarian together. For the tank units, you got their selection of Turin tanks. So you have those. You get a Turin tank platoon. So you got some options here. They also have an assault gun platoon down here. Like, so I'm not really familiar with the Hungarian kit, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But you do have some options for the Toldis and the Turins. And then I can't even pronounce that one. Zarinyi 2 is what it is. And you guys can butcher me in the comments section, but I think that's what it is on that. You also have access to Panzer Force if you're going to use a Hungarian list as well. And then over here, they expand on it a little bit more. You can get some Nimrod AA tanks. They got Hetzer 38Ts and Stug 3Gs. So you can get some variety of armor here, whether it's going to be Hungarian kit or some stuff that was pulled over from Germans. For your artillery, a little limited on the artillery side. You're just looking at towed guns. Looks like you're looking at 80 millimeter, 105 millimeter for your towed artillery, and then your mortar batteries looking at 81, 120 millimeter, and then your off table kind of gets in a little bit bigger as far as howitzers and things like that. So you got the basics for your artillery. If you're going to put them in your list, especially if you're playing smaller games, you'll be able to hold your own for lower point total games. If you're getting into bigger stuff, you know, you might have to do combined arms if you want to get a little more out of your artillery units here. This is kind of the bare bones basic stuff for on-table, off-table artillery. Defenses, you got a lot more options here. If you're playing as a Hungarian, they got the list filled out over here. A lot of the standard stuff that you would see. You got off-table 47 millimeter anti-tank shot for 5 points. You know, and if you've played before, you know, you might be familiar with that. Seen some German lists when they have off-table 88 or some of the other other factions as well have that kind of stuff. You still have access to command bunkers, minefields, roadblocks, anti-tank ditches. So you can put together a nice little defensive list based off the amount of infantry you can put together, as well as the defenses here. And it's really not going to cost you that much as far as point totals go. So you can kind of dig in and really take on the Soviet horde as they're rolling across Hungary here, and feel fairly confident that you put up a decent fight. Recce support units over here. Obviously, you got the sniper. You're going to start looking into some of the Hungarian armored cars as well. Is it Szaba is how it goes? Like I said, I have no idea. 39N. And then they have a couple variations of that. You can get some recce tanks in here as well. You get the motorcycle recce, a unit for them as well. You can get a patrol as well as it looks like it's an individual 3-man with a Panzerfaust. So you have some flexibility there with putting some stuff together, whether it's in trucks or in motorcycles. Anti-tank guns, they have options for here. Pak 40, I believe you can get an upgrade to that as well. Well, it'll be the Hungarian version of the Pak 40, 75 millimeter L48. And then you can get tows and things like that for, well, bicycle recce, and then you can get a reconnaissance command tank. So there's some decent options in here for recce for the Hungarians. For support, you got your engineer squad as well as light bridging and repair vehicles. And then logistics, you can get supply column, which another thing too on here, which I find is maybe underutilized by some players, just like talking to people, but that transport pool for 4 points, if you want to take a fairly heavy foot slogging list with a lot of infantry. For only 4 points, you can start loading guys up in trucks. It's a unique thing right there, but you can get 4 trucks all together for 16 points, and you can make that foot slogging infantry. You can get them in a transport pool. Kind of nice when you have guys coming off table as reserves and you want to bring them on and get them in the positions a little bit quicker before the enemy's able to kind of overtake your position. So for 16 points, to be able to get 4 units to kind of push up the table quick, that's a nice thing to have. You got stretcher party, ambulance, forward aid post, a lot of the standard stuff here. Special support units, you got some heavy AA, you got some towed AA. Anti-tank guns, like I said, the PaK 40 equivalents are over here as well. You got assault gun platoons, so you can get some more Stug 3Gs if you wanted to add them. And it looks like you can also replace the Stugs with Hetzers, the 38T variant. In here as well. You can get heavy machine gun sections. They got a lot of different stuff in here. Heavy tank unit. You can take a Panther or a Tiger. They're unique, but you can add a heavy tank to your list over here, and the pricing is fairly decent. It looks like it's 90 and 85 points respectively for each one of those. You can get some more Nimrods as well, and then you get a tank hunter team over here with the Pupchin 88mm. So you got some options in here for tank hunter teams as well that are fairly cheap. Fire support, you got a bunch of options in here as well. It seems it's fairly fleshed out, varying between airstrikes, and then you got 305 mortar barrage. So yeah, you got some options in here as far as heavy hitters go. Nothing that looks like it's 5 points. It seems like outside of third target priority, so you might have to spend a little, but it seems like the stuff that you get for your 20-30 point range, which there's a decent amount of options in here. You're gonna get some bang for your buck if you're going for the big explosions on the table. So that's what you're looking at there. This is the short campaign going in here. We're on page 68 now, so we're getting toward the end of the book. So the campaign in here, it looks like, I believe it's 6 scenarios. Gives you the basic rundown here of how to run the campaign and what happens based off victory and defeat and things like that. If you played the campaign before, it's the standard setup for that. The scenarios in here, they were actually pretty cool, and there's some good ones in here. I know Vin and I were talking about running, I believe it was scenario 6 to just kind of mess around. I think it was platoon size. So you go through here, battle rating wise, you're looking at a lot of stuff like over here for scenario 2. It's like, scenario 1, you're looking at like between 20 and 40 battle rating after you start adding in your additional points and forces. So yeah, you're probably around closer to 30 points for scenario 1. You're looking at a much smaller skirmish here for scenario 2 for holding Kalaz. That one looks like it's going to be very quick, like squad level size game, very small on here. Battle rating 7, like I said, 16 for there. You can add about 100 points to each of those. It all seems like it's generally platoon level size engagements where you're going to be running into battle ratings around 20 to 30, somewhere in there. So nice quick games that you guys can handle in like 2 or 3 hours on the long side if you're taking your time. And it seems like that's pretty consistent going all the way through here. Different canal ones like bridge crossings and things like. There's a lot of good variety in these missions. This could be a pretty fun campaign to just put together and play. There's like one big battle here, scenario 5, high ground at Saragres. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I could be way off on that. But battle rating here starts 35. You look like you're adding 75 points to 150 points. Additional forces for German and Russian, so that's going to expand on those. So this might be the biggest game that you're looking at here inside this campaign, which jumps things up a little bit, but still, these games are fairly manageable. Looks like you can get a lot of these done in one evening based off the forces and what they give you here. The scenario 6 looks like it could get a little bit bigger, maybe close to 50 battle rating, because you do get an additional 300 points per side for this one, and they're starting off at 24 and 20 respectively. So maybe that 40 to 50 range. For the last scenario, but most stuff in here for the games in here for the campaign, you might be able to get 1 or 2 of these done a night, and then once you get into scenario 5 and 6, it might be like a 3-hour game for some of those. So definitely stuff that you can get together with your gaming group, and you can feel confident that you can crank out at least a mission or 2 a night, and keep the campaign rolling over the course of a month, and probably be able to wrap it up and finish it. In the back of the book, like standard Hungarian equipment that you guys have in here. There's nothing in here for Soviets and for Germans. If you want that, you're gonna probably have to end up using Fall of the Reich, and that'll have all the equipment from the book in there. But yeah, this has all the Hungarian equipment that you're looking for in there on these 2 pages, and that is the end of the book. So that's what we're looking at here for Spring Awakening. Like I said, overall, this looks like it's going to be a pretty fun book to play. You know, I'm always looking out for different stuff to play on the Eastern Front. I know we had Fall of the Reich beforehand. I've been playing a lot of Barbarossa, but it's kind of nice to get more stuff in there from Eastern Front. Hopefully they keep to expand on it, because I love that theater. There's tons of different things that they can do with it. And like I said, if they're the same quality as the Spring Awakening book, I think we'll be in for good things down the road. But for right now, I think this is more than enough to kind of hold us over for a little while. So definitely worth checking out Spring Awakening. I know here in the United States, NWS Online, I got my copy. I believe it was $12 there, and then it was roughly $6 to ship it. So for $18, I was able to get this. And then obviously, if you guys are in Europe, you guys are going to have Europe or UK or anywhere else, you guys are going to have a much easier time getting this as far as distribution goes. But over here in the US, NWS Online had these books, and they're reasonably priced even once you factor in shipping. So highly recommend checking it out for you Eastern Front players. Like I said, lots of good stuff in here. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I'll catch you guys later.